to Domain 6, Level 1 Instructional Execution. This professional learning experience will give you an overview with some examples of what this might look, feel, and sound like in your classroom, where we believe in the training team to learn, grow, inspire, and transform. We will also provide for you some additional resources that you can use to guide you through your observational journey for Domain 6. As an overview, instructional execution at the level 1 level looks like scholar interest. You have them on the hook. They are interested. You've captured their interest, and they're 100% with you. How do we accomplish this, especially during this time of year, where scholars are typically, what this looks like is that they're fully invested in the content because it's been clearly communicated. You've posed some questions, you have discussion points for them. You've asked them some great questions to usher them into the lesson. The lesson is modified to adjust for your check for understandings, meaning you're collecting data. You ask them a question, they respond to that question, or you give them an activity, they respond to it. Either way, anytime scholars are giving that output, that's a piece of data that you can collect. It doesn't have to be something as formal. It's just you collecting information about what they know and how much they know. Scholars, they will use their think time, and they're going to grapple with challenging content in order to generate higher order thinking questions. So it requires you to give them the space to breathe, to explore, to learn by doing in order for them to respond, and especially to produce some higher order thinking questions. And for our PLA scholars, they may need a little support in that. So we have some tips for you. Also, scholars will be able to demonstrate mastery of the new skill because the lesson was appropriately paced, meaning you gave them adequate time to really sit with what they needed. It wasn't too slow, the lesson wasn't too fast, it was just the right speed. And so we'll break this down a little bit further. All right. So when we look at all of the indicators in Domain 6 of our teacher observation rubric, the first indicator is active background knowledge. These are some guiding questions. Are the learning experiences authentic? Are they relevant? Is this important to me in my life? Like right now, today, not 5 years from now, not when I graduate high school. I've heard that lecture over and over again. Is it relevant right now, today? Does the learning task help scholars make connections to prior knowledge? What do I come to the table with? Do you even know? As a teacher, have you tapped in? And so sometimes our do not activators and our lesson openers, it's a great opportunity to ask a question, to give them a what would you do, a case study, a situation, a scenario that really allows them to share what they come to the table with. For example, all right, we all eat, we all consume food. So when it comes to grocery shopping, going to the corner store, buying food, right? How do I really get to know what the best deal is? We all want a good deal. We all want to save money. We all want to get more for less money, right? So asking our scholars, which is the best deal? The price of the apples, or the price of the red apples, or the green apples? Or asking our scholars, I'm trying to determine what cell phone plan I should get. Verizon is going to charge me $76 for 500 minutes, but Sprint is going to charge me $54 for 450 minutes. So which one is the best deal? Or it might be a situation where a scholar loves cars. So now we're piquing to their interest, right? A scholar might love cars, right? And so really asking this scholar, a Mustang gets 300 miles on 20 gallons of gas, but a Camry gets 495 miles on 15 gallons of gas. Which vehicle has the better deal? Which one gives you the best gas mileage, ultimately saving me lots of money over the next few years? And so these are real world questions that our scholars are going to find relevant depending on their interest and what's more meaningful to them. Our high schoolers, some of them are driving and having these experiences, so it's more relevant. Some of our younger middle schoolers, they may be into their cell phones right now, so the best cell phone plan is huge, right? And so these are just some ways to really see what their background knowledge is while also giving that real world relevance. Super important. Also, indicator 6.2, standards-based instruction, standards-based instructional outcomes. So is there evidence of a learning outcome? Do the scholars know what the learning outcome should be? Is the learning outcome aligned with the state standard? I don't know. What does that look like if I'm a new teacher or a new educator? Well, it might look like this. So somewhere in the room, right? When your building leaders or any leaders come into your classroom and they do walk into your classroom to do an observation, or maybe they're doing a learning walk, they're bringing another colleague in the room, somewhere it should be listed. It should be visible for scholars. Scholars need to have this stick, right? And so this might be something, if it's a math lesson that they may see. Well, they ask the scholars, what are you learning today? The scholars should be able to say, I should be able to solve a double-digit division equation using using the algorithm. Okay, and then why is this important? Right? What's the purpose of this? So why is this important, and why is it mostly important to you? Can the scholars make the personal connection? Well, so I can be a successful mathematician and solve these problems when grocery shopping and everyday life to get the best deals. Now, they may not say it in that verbiage, but they may say, hey, when I go to the corner store, I will know how to get the best deal and not just buy, something because it seems like I'm getting more of it, when probably I'm paying more to get that more, and it's cheaper if I get the smaller unit size or package, right? And then lastly, do they know what the success criteria is, right? Do they know what success looks, feels, and sounds like? And so for them, that might be this last area over here. I'm successful when my quotient practice is completed with 70% accuracy using the algorithm method. That might be using Zern, Elastic, et cetera, right? And so you may, as an educator, put them on Zern to practice Elastic assessment or some type of assessment that you're going to give in the classroom. But either way, the scholar knows what success looks like. Another example of this might be really clear. Here we have the standard here. This is a literacy standard based on the book Little Melba and Her Big Trombone. The scholars clearly know I can so that I can. And you know what? I know that I'm successful when I can. And so using I can statements to make it very clear, and even helping scholars know what is the performance task. They're going to have to use a 4 to 5 item film strip to list the event's actions in order to write or present a police interrogation or press conference in groups of 2. Like, they know to the T. I get to work with one other scholar. I'm using a film strip and I have to complete this film strip. So you can be as even detailed as that. Next, we have indicator 6.3, effective communication. Is the content communicated clearly and accurately? Are scholars able to intellectually engage directly, efficiently as a result of teacher clarity? So this begs the question, am I teaching with clarity? Do scholars literally know what they're supposed to be doing, what success looks like? And we kind of indicated that, but it does help when we use flashback, right? When we use gradual release of responsibility, when we use things in small chunks, right? When scholars are able to, one, begin with the end in mind, so they have a clear understanding. Today, I will use strategies to make inferences about animal defense mechanisms so that I can what? Explain it in detail in specific text, including what happened and why based on text evidence. And I'll know that I have it when I can find 2 to 3 specific details to support animals using fleeing and or armor as a defense mechanism. So they know we're beginning with the end in mind. They know these are our tasks. This is going to be the I do that I'm going to model. Teacher's going to be clear because I'm modeling it first. Then we're going to do it together. And before you release them on their own to reach that success. So teacher clarity is huge. We're saying it verbally. They see the expectations on the board somewhere, and we modeled it for them, and so they had a chance to go to the next indicator, which is learn by doing. Indicator 6.4, fostering student engagement. So we have to get them involved. These are some guiding questions for this indicator. Does the teacher create interest, excitement, for the content? Are you excited, right? How are you going to hook the scholars into the learning, right? Are you going to use resources like Go Noodle and other videos or websites that's specific to your content? That's exciting for our scholars. We know that they are Gen Z and Generation Alpha, so they are, they watch videos, they believe in self learning, so that's huge. Another guiding question is, were questions planned and discussion strategies utilized to build on this enthusiasm? Do they get to talk to each other? Or is this a lecture and they're only listening to the teacher? Remember, they are experts. They can speak their language, they can talk about their life and their worldview, and that's really important to their peers. And that's really important to the culture of Generation Zers and Generation Alpha, meaning scholars who are currently in elementary, middle school, and high school. And another guiding question for this indicator to foster that engagement is scholar enthusiasm for the content, is it contagious? I mean, it should be contagious. And let's see just a small glimpse of when the teacher is excited, when you're excited, you're engaged. I mean, you're in costume, you're performing, you're ready to go, you're hyped about this content and this lesson. Believe me, okay, it will be contagious. They will join you. When it's contagious for them, then their peers are going to be equally excited. And so this is just a small clip of what it's like when teachers are super excited about their content.
Another day, another breath. Been chasing dreams.
The North, I get strong.
I got a new attitude and a lease on life is a piece of mind. Seeking a find, I can sleep when I die. Want a piece of the pie, got the keys to the ride. And I'm straight. I'm on my way. I'm on my way. Get up my way. I'm running late.
All right. So here you have teachers who are completely educators, who are completely, they want to make learning fun. So they're all into hooking the scholars. They're modeling, they're doing demonstration, the I do part. They are really selling their content in their program. And so ask yourself the question, if you had to buy a ticket to be in your class, would you buy that ticket? Would it be worth it for you? So let's have fun and let's make sure you're engulfing them in that standard based instruction. All right, indicator 6.5, checks for understanding. So this is where the teacher uses, and this is some of the guiding questions. Does the teacher regularly facilitate checks for understanding? Are you seeing if they're with you, right? Or have you left them behind? Meaning, okay, they tapped out a long time ago. You're using vocabulary they don't know, they don't understand. You haven't broken things down, or they haven't had a chance to talk to their classmates. So their classmates can help to explain what's happening right now. Is the lesson modified in response to the check for understanding? So if you find that only 5 of your scholars are getting it and the other 15 are not, are you making adjustments right now to make sure you increase that success rate before you move on? Is a scholar misunderstanding responded to with effective scaffolding and feedback? So are you letting them know, hey, I noticed you did this, or I noticed you missed this step? And so these are just things that we want to be mindful of. And I want to show you a short clip. You will receive this resource on the training website as well. And let's see what this teacher does to support the learning process.
Después, agarren el dibujo después, voltea con tu compañero y dile qué está pasando. Después. Oh, no escucho, díganle a su compañero. Después. Ok, gracias por tratar en ayudarle y gracias. Para la próxima vez trata más despacio para que ella pueda decirlo, ¿ok? Today the strategy that I use is called Rally Robin. And Rally Robin is when they partner up with a student and they talk back and forth. When I do Rally Robin as a teacher, for me to check for understanding, I go around the tables, I get close to the partners and I listen into the conversation. I think the strategy is very great for the ELD kids because it gives them the opportunity to do more talking. So by doing Rally Robin, it kind of forced them to talk, not only to talk, but to listen to the partner and rephrase what they're supposed to be talking about. Sometimes you're gonna find kids that they didn't understand the topic, or they're not understanding what they're supposed to be doing, and it's okay. I just go back into the carpet and we reteach it. I might not do it the same day because it's just too much, but the next day I will back, reteach it, model it, and practice it with the class.
And we have so
Take
many
that same.
options. We have so many options for checks for understanding. This teacher chooses to use a Raleigh Robin because she wants to verbally hear the scholars talk, to give them that practice time to really assess where they are in their learning. Again, if scholars aren't talking, then they're not learning. We have to shrink our teacher talk, and we have to increase scholar talk as well. And so, love this is just one check for understanding strategy. This video here has 15 and a multiple approaches for high school, middle school, and elementary school. So you have this in your resource kit. So make sure you check the rest of this video out. We also have on indicator 6.6 effective questioning. And these are some guiding questions. Is there effective use of wait time before and after question is posed, and no opt-out rule? So if students struggle, are appropriate supports provided for them? So again, not lowering the rigor, but wanting to make sure that we're giving them the appropriate supports. And so I want to address wait time. Wait time is huge. If it's not there, it really impedes engagement. For example, what if there's a teacher who's struggling, right? And the teacher poses this great higher order thinking question, but then the teacher immediately says, Casey, what is the reason the character in the story is unhappy? Well, guess what? You called on Casey. That's the first thing you said is Casey. Casey is the only one listening now. Oh, so we don't want to call on a scholar's name, right? And then what happens if we say, Jordan, Casey's answer is right. Do you have any ideas to add? Well, you just told Jordan that Casey's answer was right. So he might not want to add any additional information because, okay, well, she already got it right. So I'm just going to say at this point, well, I agree with her. So again, we shrink the opportunity to really do any deep thinking when we call the scholar's name first, and we let the scholars know who's right, right? We've limited the opportunity to do that. So this is a non-example, right? The appropriate example is for think time and wait time. We want to pause after the teacher poses a question. So after we pose a question, we want to pause and we want to wait, right? Before we name a student to respond. All right. The second strategy for wait time is we pause after the student answers without giving feedback or calling on another student. So you pause, you give that scholar wait time, but you also give them think time. Don't be afraid of the silence, okay? When you pause, you give them additional time, they're going to stretch that answer. They're going to go deeper. And especially for your introverts, introverts need a little bit more processing time, but they're going to give you a deeper answer. Don't just go for the scholar who has their hand up and they have that quick response. Sometimes it's a surface level response, but if you give them more time, you're going to get a deeper, more thought-provoking response. And these are just some tips as well. What to do during think time. Allow scholars to know what to do, right? When the speaking student should be doing the following things. They're going to continue to think about the question and their response. They want to change or add to your response if they want, and they're going to formulate some questions. They're going to clarify because they're curious, right? The listening scholar is doing what? They're comparing the first response to the question silently to themselves while they're listening. They're deciding whether they agree or not, or they disagree. They're going to formulate another question, and then they're going to form a comment to add on to what the speaker is saying. When we don't provide adequate wait time and think time, these processes don't happen, and we're essentially not providing the space for higher order thinking, higher order responses. And so we want to make sure that wait time and think time, they are a must. Next, indicator 6.7, accountability for understanding. Is there a no opt-out rule enforced during the checks for understanding process, right? Are there multiple questioning techniques to assess understanding? And are scholars asking clarifying questions and collaborating with classmates? If we don't leave space for this, it will not happen. But what happens when a scholar says, I don't know? How do we respond to that? This is one tip that a veteran educator gave me. When a scholar says, I don't know, right? You're like, man, I don't want to embarrass them. I don't want to put them on the spot. I don't want to scare them or whatever and make everyone intimidated if I press them, right? But you need to, but in a healthy way. The way that you can do that, if a scholar says, I don't know, and that's essentially their way of opting out, right? Because in their mind, if they don't know, they can't offer anything. But you know what? Everyone has something to offer. So your response is, well, tell me what you do know. You need to assess where the learning has stopped, right? It's not helpful for a scholar to say, I don't know, because that's not giving you anything as a teacher to go on. You need to know what they know and where their learning stopped. So a great statement to respond to an I don't know is, tell me what you do know, right? To ask some other questions, some smaller, shrink that question down, make it smaller so you can see where their learning stopped and another scholar can support them. But if they know that you're not going to accept I don't know, they're definitely going to offer more and be prepared to offer more when you pose questions. And what happens if our scholars don't know how to generate questions? Well, there's a great strategy by the Right Question Institute, and they pretty much give scholars a protocol for generating questions. It teaches scholars how to do it.
When I was thinking about this question focus, I was really trying to be careful of what I was giving to them because I really want to find out what they do know from just identifying fractions. We've done very little with equivalent fractions. We've talked a little bit about adding and subtracting fractions through an adjective noun idea, so that 3/5 plus 2/5 is just like 3 apples plus 2 apples. So we haven't actually instructed anything with fractions. So I'm interested to see what they can bring as questions to make me understand where they're still stuck or what they still don't know.
Why are some of the fractions circled and the rest of the fractions are not?
Why is a circle shaded into 5/8?
Why is there 8 shaded at 5?
Why is the circle shaded?
The questioning certainly gets deeper as they keep going. With fourth graders, it's important to push them to stick with the time and not stop after they get to a certain number or not stop after a few minutes, that to really keep going and have more questions than there's time for, because that's where we get to some really deep thinking.
Can we make our own fractions out of it?
All right, and so again, here we have the opportunity for scholars to learn how to generate questions. And the Right Question Institute, also known as RQI, this is their question generator protocol, right? It's called the QFT, Question Formulation Technique, and these are the steps that they use. Create a question focus. It needs to be based on a real world topic or something that they can absolutely connect with. We time it. Scholars generate questions. You notice they were on the floor. They were comfortable. They were in their peer groups. They had chart paper. They had markers. They generated as many questions using a round robin. That round meaning they went around in a circle. Robin means to talk. 3, they identified the open-ended and closed-ended questions. They labeled them O and C. Number 4, they find an open-ended question and make it a closed-ended question, and make a closed-ended question an open-ended question. This builds the muscle of helping scholars to know how to ask great questions. Now, scholars are naturally curious, right? A lot of times we can prevent our scholars from being curious when we are doing a lot of talking. But when they are able to be their most organic selves, they're curious. And so helping them to make an open-ended question closed-ended and a closed-ended question open, that teaches them a huge skill, right? Number 5, choose the top 3 priority questions and sequence them. So scholars learn to do that. And then number 6, they learn to share out and reflect. Again, all of these public speaking skills, collaboration skills that they're getting with this process. And so that's what makes up the QFT strategy. And then, we could also do this a different way. Let's say our scholars are super young. Maybe they're primary grade level, and I don't know, maybe they're not there with being able to write yet, and you don't want to do this on the carpet as a whole group. You really want to empower them to do this on their own. Well, You would provide them a scenario that would help them to be just as curious. And so here on the screen, we have an example, right? This scenario says a local scientist donated 6 mystery boxes for the classroom. You could have 3 boxes literally in your classroom, shoe boxes. They don't know, right? There are noises coming from the inside of the boxes that sound like chirping, but not the kind that birds make. All right. The note attached to the boxes state fragile. These valuable items will require your sharp inquiry skills in order to survive. Ooh, so something's living inside. Generate the right questions in order to open the box so that the living items survive. So there's a sense of urgency here. They have to generate the right questions to be able to open up the box. I mean, you establish what that is, right? And so this is another way to hook our scholars into the learning, get them generating questions, get them motivated to open up the box, kind of like an escape room. All right, indicator, our last one is indicator 6.8. This is about pacing of instruction. We talked about this a little bit earlier, but some guiding questions. Does the pacing of the lesson allow scholars to engage in open-ended questions? If we're rushing through, open-ended questions take some time to generate, take some time to respond to. If we are only asking them closed-ended questions, they're usually yes or no questions. They usually only have a right answer. We want questions that don't necessarily have one right answer. That's how you know they're open-ended questions, right? Are scholars engaged in to collaborate or discuss, right? Are they empowered to do that? And so when we look at this section of our rubric, our teacher observation rubric, again, we ask ourselves, is the lesson too fast? Is it too slow? Or is it just right? And so all of these questions you are empowered to look at, to review, to think through when you are looking at domain 6 as a teacher. We do as a training team have different resources and supports that can be provided for you as an educator and building leaders, as well as your instructional coaches and specialists and things like that. So just be empowered. And there's also a phenomenal resource that provides additional information in the academic playbook. Thank you, and